Well, good morning, everybody. This is a real treat today to have these two gentlemen with us. As somebody who grew up in Queens as a Yankee-obsessed child, it's a great treat to have my former partner and current Yankees president, Randy Levine, with us. Welcome, Randy. And the managing general partner and chairperson of YGE, Hal Steinbrenner. Thank you, Hal, for taking the time to join us. So my routine as a grammar school student was a little odd. I would always read the back page of the Daily News before I went to second and third grade. And one day, there was this announcement 50 years ago that some unknown shipbuilder from Cleveland had just bought the Yankees. And I wondered from your perspective, and Randy, you've been there about half the journey for the family of the last 50 years, the biggest on-field and off-field changes as you've grown up with the team during your lifetime.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I almost think with all these rule changes that we absolutely supported. I mean, they've been phenomenal. I mean, I almost think, as I look to the 60s and 70s, of course I was very young, but I mean, it seems to me like the game has almost come full circle on the field. There's shorter games by about 30 minutes, right? Less time before a ball's in play. I mean, there's just more action. It's a better product on the field now than it was a year or two ago. And I think we've gotten back to the way it was in the 70s. I really do.
And do you assess your players the same way? Because with all of the analytics that have come out, there's still, batting averages are still down, home runs are still, you know, the cause celeb. Are you assessing players differently today than you did decades ago, even if the game is returning to that format?
Well, obviously analytics is such a big part of the game, as is performance science, biomechanics now, in all sports across, you know, really the world, including collegiate sports. So look, there's no doubt there's a lot more information now. Any decision that needs to be made, we just have a lot more information to go through and to analyze before we make that decision. So there's no doubt there's a lot more information than there was back then.
And you created a little bit of news a few weeks ago when you were both talking to the media and said you were going to do a thorough postseason evaluation of the team on and off the field. And I think a lot of people initially interpreted that as thinking that McKinsey or Bain was going to, you know, come in and start turning over the files. I think it turned out to be more of an internal evaluation. But tell us what you all discussed in Tampa over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, everything. These were 3 days of meetings, 8 hours long. And, you know, I told the group, and it was everybody in baseball ops. It was a group of about 15, including Aaron Boone. He was there. And I just told them, I want you to challenge everything, all of our philosophies, all of our practices. But more importantly, in a respectful way, I want you to challenge each other. I want you to critique each other. You know, check your egos at the door kind of thing, and be prepared to, you know, be critiqued. And a lot of that happened, and I think at times it got a little dicey, but it was respectful the entire time. And there wasn't one stone we left unturned, from health of the team, what we're doing in the clubhouse culture, what we do in the weight room, analytics, pro scouting, biomechanics, is there enough communication between everybody? So it was a great 3 days. It was a very honest conversation. Many more to come in the months to come, but we're going to be making some changes. Some may be more subtle than others, but I think we've uncovered certainly things we could do better.
So I'm compelled to ask, what will be those changes, subtle or otherwise?
Well,
give me a dramatic
possibly
change.
Personnel, but not necessarily personnel. It could be practices. It could be the way people communicate. You know, when we bring a young minor leaguer up to the major league level, are the major league coaches talking enough to player development, and vice versa? I mean, are the major league coaches really getting into reading a lot of research? Because, you know, we do notes as these kids go from one level to the next, what's being worked on, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. So we want to make sure that when they get to the major league level, these coaches really know who they are, what they need to do, what needs to be worked on, if anything, and that there's good communication flow between player development and everybody at the major league level. I mean, that's one example.
Will they let Anthony Volpe go back to his Del Barton High School swing again, which was beautiful? Randy, what changes could we expect kind of off the field on the business side?
Well, you know, you asked what's really changed, and you know, many years ago, I remember when I first became president of the Yankees, the boss came to me and he said, you know, we got a great baseball team. I want you to help me to turn it into an entertainment and sports company. And that's what we've done. You know, Hal's the chairman of YGE. He's been instrumental in it, you know, from the beginning. And we've taken the Yankee brand, which is the core of everything we do, and everything about that Yankee brand, we try and utilize it in all aspects to grow in other businesses, and we have. You know, that's why we started the Yes Network. We realized how important media was to the Yankees, and we grew it from there. That's why we started Legends with the Cowboys and Goldman Sachs at the time, because there's nothing that touches your customers, your consumers, gets them more angry than, you know, warm beer and cold hot dogs. You know, you got to do it the right way. And then we branched out into, you know, soccer with the New York City Football Club and recently AC Milan. Very, you know, minor interests. We're the minority shareholders in those. We have what's going on right now at Woolman Rink. I would invite any of you guys to go watch it. It's this new sport that isn't new except for the United States, called paddle, where Fabrice Pastor, one of the great businessmen in Europe and a paddle player, started paddle, and we're partners in that. So we've managed to always keep opportunities in front of us and use the basis of the Yankees and what we do with the Yankees in order to grow out the business. And we're constantly looking for great partners. You know, we started the Pinstripe Bowl and restored college football back to New York. You know, every bowl game prior to that had failed. This has turned out to be a great success. So I think that's how it's changed. You know, it's become a great baseball team, and that's 90% of what we do. But we've actually built it into a sports and entertainment company and hope to grow it even bigger.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I think on the one hand, the Yankees have always been viewed as sort of the paragons of conservatism, yet you've actually been quite bold in all of these brand extensions and new businesses. But you undoubtedly have an endless number of opportunities that are presented to you. What's your decision-making process when you decide to do a Legends or do an AC Milan investment? How do you guys get together, and what are your criteria for deciding whether to spend the time and the money on something new like that?
Well, each is very different. You know, for Yes, it became very clear to us a long time ago that we needed to control our media rights rather than just, you know, getting paid for them and having somebody else exploit it. Now, you know, the value of that media rights fluctuates. Some days they're up, some days down, as you see the RSN Market today. And the same with Legends. And, you know, we have a lot of other interests in companies that do things associated with the Yankees and have grown into other sports or other teams. You know, on infrastructure, we're partners in infrastructure companies that do things in other stadiums. So each deal is different. Is it going to make money? Yeah, we hope so. We're not into investing in companies that lose money unless we buy companies that are losing money and think we can partner with people who turn it around. And the other is strategic, as I said. What helps us?
And Hal, are there areas that you'd like to expand into beyond the ball club?
Well, look, I think you brought up the point. There's always opportunities, right? And as Randy said, the couple big ones for us, Yes and Legends, we really did because we did it because we knew we could do it better than we felt anybody else could. And that includes the food. You know, we had just built a stadium along with the Cowboys, and we wanted to do it right, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And we're doing more than food and beverage now. So that, you know, Legends and Yes occupy a lot of our time. But yes, I mean, clearly we are a sports organization. We're really excited about our interest in AC Milan, really excited about the paddle. We're a sports organization, so when people come to us with opportunities within the sports world, me personally, that's probably more exciting to me than some other opportunities that might be brought to me. But
So Scott Soshnick asked me earlier why I was wearing a tie, and I told him it was because we would have to talk about RSNs, and I wanted to be properly dressed to do the eulogy at the end of that segment. So you've obviously got Diamond Sports in bankruptcy. Warner Brothers Discovery has exited the business. Everyone is pronouncing the end of the RSNs, yet Yes continues to be very successful. Nesson continues to be successful. The Dodgers RSN is successful. Is this going to be a further division between the rich and the poor because the RSNs around the most heavily branded teams in the league still seem to be surviving and thriving?
You run, yes.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I think it's content, and I honestly think the RSN market is going through a roller coaster right now. I mean, the cable bundle got disrupted because a lot of people thought they were getting programs they didn't need and it was too expensive. Now you have all these streaming services, and when you add up all the streaming services, it's more expensive than the cable bundle. And so you see people migrating back. So I think you're going to see a fluctuation, but strong content always prevails, always prevails. You know, Yes is here in New York in the metropolitan area, the Yankee brand. Though we had a tough year this year, you know, we have a lot of credibility in winning and putting a good team on the field. And, you know, we have the Nets, we have a lot of good programming. So I think that's the case. And I think if I was in the RSN business, not with the Yankees or with Nesson or with Marquee or whatever, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, as others are trying to do, I would gravitate to those who were successful and see if they could be the leaders in putting stuff together. So I think that a lot of people really don't get this business. I think it's a very complicated business that you have to ride up and down. Yes, has taken hits just like everybody else. We're part of the infrastructure, but just we can weather it better than anybody else.
And you started this year a direct-to-consumer service at about, I think, $24 a month. What kind of take-up did you get from that?
Great. It really took off. We blew out the numbers. Honestly, as the team performance started to slip, it went down, which is that's the whole point, you know. It's tied to performance. It really is. It's tied to content. People want to buy good content. But the trend was fantastic.
And it's often said that the typical baseball demographic is a white male who's about 60 years of age. And while I have tremendous empathy for that particular demographic group, it often doesn't correlate with people who adapt to new technologies and the like. Is the Yankees demo kind of on MLB? Do you skew a little bit younger or more tech savvy? What's been your experience?
Well, look, you know, 10 years ago, our biggest concern were the millennials. So, you know, for instance, they want more than just the product on the field. They want an entire experience, which is why we built these huge decks out in the outfield so they can watch the game standing up with their friends, Snapchatting, doing all that. The decks are packed from beginning to end. Now it's the Gen Zers that are a concern. I mean, they have so much different content they can consume, whether it's sports, non-sports, that we've really put a concerted effort into Yes to try to get them into baseball, into watching the Yankees, and most importantly, maybe most difficultly, keeping them. Right. It's a challenge, and we're doing things in the stadium to try to make the experience greater, and we're doing things at Yes, too.
Yeah, and I think if you go to Yankee Stadium, you look at the crowd on any given day, it's far from, you know, white guys 60 like us, like me. It's very diverse. You know, New York is a very diverse place, and when you go, it's very diverse. Obviously, Latinos love baseball. They're here in New York. They come out, both for us and the Mets. Thank God, you know, African Americans, we've had outreach. They're starting to, you know, turn to baseball, play baseball. We got to provide fields. The commissioner's done a great job so they can play. That's happening, and we try and welcome, you know, as new people come to this city and learn sports. You know, we've had people from the Caribbean who are used to cricket getting into baseball, so we're conscious of it.
Do you have any sense of what the percentage of women is that attend Yankee games? What's your percentage there?
Yeah, I'd say it's close to half.
Really? Oh, spectacular. And last question maybe on the RSN market. Obviously, Commissioner Manfred's been very outspoken in his views on Diamond and has really taken the bull by the horns in terms of preparing to launch an MLB-specific sort of RSN group. What's going to be the level of involvement of the Yankees in that, other than as an owner, you know, as 1/30th owner?
None.
None?
We've told them none.
Okay. Who else has told him no?
Al's told them, I've told them.
Yeah, look, I think, I'm not going to speak for Rob or baseball, but clearly, eventually, they would like to have all 30 clubs be a part of it. But I think at first, I think they understand that may not be the case. And, you know, they're going to come to us and they're going to present their concept of what they're going to do and why being a part of it would be better than doing it on our own. Right now, we don't agree with that. But, and they know that, and we've been honest about that. So.
Well, the other topic that I think will occupy a lot of panels as the day goes on is the introduction of private equity to sport. I think baseball sort of led this initiative at the end of 2019 by passing some new rules. All of the other leagues except the NFL have followed along. My sense is that while you have a fair number of limited partners in the Yankees, you don't have any private equity firms at the current time. Is that something you would eventually be open to, or do you prefer individuals and families as co-owners?
Problem is we can't get anybody to sell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of our partners literally have been with us since the beginning, from people from Cleveland, you know, that my dad, they were the part of the original group. So we do get new partners because some partners pass away, but they end up, their family doesn't want to get completely out, so they sell a point, they sell 2 points. So we've had a lot of the same partners for a long time, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, we have private equity leaders as individuals, but we don't have funds because we actually try and limit the number of individuals, and sometimes it gets dicey the other way.
And what's your perspective on it as a capital structure item for the sport as a whole, whether or not you're using it?
Well, I think, you know, thanks to Al's leadership, we don't really need cash influxes. We don't. You know, we don't have capital calls. We never do. Right. So at the end of the day, nothing wrong with it. I think it's great. These people who are in this business are some of our closest friends and some of the smartest people in the world. Just for us, doesn't make sense right now.
And one of the things that how your family was able to do, which is often very challenging, is there was sort of a seamless transition, you know, from your dad to your siblings and you. Is the goal of the family to continue to pass this on through subsequent generations?
Yeah, we actually have, I mean, I've got a niece that helps my sister run the foundation. I've got 3 nephews that are involved, including Stephen, my oldest, who's a big part of a lot of decisions we make. So this truly is a family business. We have 4 or 5 of the grandchildren in it. So that is clearly the intent. I will not be doing this forever. My nephews and niece are very, very intelligent, very capable. Right. So that is the plan, even though I get asked all the time if we're going to sell the team. The answer is no.
It wasn't a solicitation. The prior panel was soliciting. Yeah. I was not soliciting.
There you go.
So one of the things that's sort of staggering, right, is your dad bought the team for $10 million 50 years ago. Scott has you at $7.13 billion, I think, and that surely is 20% below what it's really worth right now. One of the things that's happened over the years, though, is obviously the NFL has had the highest franchise values. The NBA now has the second highest. Baseball is in third, even though you are sort of standalone. What kinds of things do you think baseball can do to grow its revenue base and grow its franchise values over the next handful of years?
Well, look, I think competitive balance-wise, I think we've come a long way the last 10 or 15 years. You look at the teams that were in the playoffs last year, the teams that made it this year, Miami, Milwaukee. But there's still some work to do. I mean, I've always said no fan should go to the first game of spring training thinking or believing that their team has no chance to make the playoffs. So most people would argue there's still some work to be done on competitive balance, but we have come a long way, I feel, in the last 10 or 15 years. But we need to go further. Fans cannot believe that the day they show up for spring training.
Randy, what's your perspective since you spent a lot of time as the chief revenue officer as well as the COO?
I agree with Hal, although I think that a lot more focus has to be on individual teams to do better and not just rely on revenue sharing. I'll give you an example. I mean, you can't have 2 Florida teams averaging, 15,000 fans. Can't have it. You don't go into an NFL stadium or an NBA arena and see that. And I think that there's been a dependency issue that's got to get better. I negotiated the '96 labor agreement that started revenue sharing, and the idea would be it would be a infusion to get you to where you are, not a lifelong subsidy. So I think that we've come a long way. The commission has done an incredible job, but now it's on individual teams. You know, instead of complaining and whining, we need more money. You got to take some responsibility. And I think baseball's got an attendance problem. This year, we went over the top on attendance, you know, after COVID, and thanks to the leadership. But that's because we were up. Texas, where a lot of the great teams, you know, who were in the playoffs, they were up. But you can't have teams that average 15,000. You just can't do it.
Yeah, and I'd just be curious on your perspective, because that's always been somewhat mystifying to me, that markets like Tampa and Miami, which should be natural homes for different demographic reasons to baseball, have struggled for 25 years. Is it a marketing issue? Is it the fact that people in Florida are at the beach or on their boats? Or what can baseball do to, and all the sports have had a little bit of a struggle in certain of these markets, but baseball seems to have had the most acute.
I don't think it's up to baseball. I think baseball's done everything they can.
No.
You know, they get revenue sharing, they get added draft picks. The baseball's done everything it can. You know, Steinbrenner and people, you know, big market teams, you know, they've done it. Now you got to step up and, am I marketing right? What am I doing wrong? How is it going to be? And that, to me, is important. I mean, you take a look at some of the teams in the playoffs that, you know, they average 20, 25,000. It shouldn't be that way. And it's not up to all of us. We can make it better. These rules changes have made the game really exciting, much better. The commissioner's done a great job. Al's on the labor committee. It's done a great job. I was. But, you know, these are local markets. Baseball's a local market game. You got to step up.
And so do you think it's primarily the way the teams are marketed in those local areas that has restrained the attendance statistics?
Well, look, as with anything, that certainly is a good point, everything Randy just said, but location does play a factor, and quite frankly, the product that's on the field is the most important thing. You put a good product on the field, and you're going to have a much better chance of success than trying to get people to walk into the stadium. But
and obviously, Oakland is on its way to Las Vegas, joining the Las Vegas sports boom. How do you feel about that market long-term for baseball?
We'll see. Baseball's doing a report. We'll see.
And you both mentioned the rules changes. Are there other things you'd like to see changed in the rules that you think would make the game either more exciting, more competitive?
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of work on the automated strike zone. We had it at Single A. We had it at the Tampa Tarpons 2 years ago, and I believe they had it at Triple A this year. I think they're still working out the kinks, so I'm not sure when that's going to come online. But you know, it just seems like depending on which umpire you get in any given day, it's a different strike zone, and that gets difficult for hitters because you know if they've got a good eye, they're used to seeing strikes, and strikes are over the plate, left to right, and top to bottom, need to be in a consistent zone. So I would be a proponent of this. I think some people may not. But
so using a computer model.
We have to have more consistency.
But basically having the computer call balls and strikes rather than a human being.
Yes, and you know, it can be challenged. It can be challenged. And there is, you know, there is an umpire there. But yes, it will be calling a ball or strike based on a predetermined zone, and I think that's what they're having some difficulty with. They're trying to get it right with what the zone should be, what shape it should be.
And I assume that'll create some collective bargaining issues, and you'll be on the committee that handles those.
Yes.
Okay.
I was there last time, I'll be there next time.
You look positively gleeful at the prospect. So you can't have one of these conferences without asking a question about technology and artificial intelligence. And so short of some hologram playing first base for $1 million a year at some point in the future, where else would you see technology scaling in baseball?
Well, I mean, I think we're starting to see, you know, I'm no expert in AI, so it'd be hard for me to even comment on AI, but I have been pretty involved with our performance science, the lab we have, all these Hawkeye cameras in every ballpark in the major leagues. I mean, there's a lot of biomechanics stuff going on, and I think in the long run, it's good because it can, if a pitcher's very good at doing one thing, we can figure out from these high-speed cameras why, and then we can also figure out how is that force created, right? How is the force created that results in that positive thing? You know, cutting down on injuries. We do a lot of workload. We have stat vests that they wear that monitor their workload, even in the minor leagues. So I think there's a lot of good things that could come out of it, but you're going to see it more and more. And we have partnerships with different universities. I really believe we lead the way in biomechanics and performance science in baseball, but it's throughout sports in the U.S. and in the world, without a doubt, and it's going to continue to grow.
And it's interesting you should touch on player injury and sustainability because, you know, there's some data that in all sports, athletes sort of peak around 27 or 28, yet we have quarterbacks playing, you know, close to age 40. We've had, you know, Verlander and Scherzer and some others pitch very successfully till close to that age, yet other athletes obviously have not thrived into their 30s. What's the data telling you in terms of the predictiveness of those outcomes, or is it just still fundamentally unpredictable?
Well, there's certainly a lot of injuries that are unpredictable. Workload management, workload. And I think a lot of this technology, you know, helps us understand just because a pitcher pitches, you know, 90 to 100 pitches, he's doing a lot more than that. He's doing a lot more pregame. Is he doing too much? Is he doing too little? So I think that's going to be, you know, a big part of it as well. We've obviously had a couple not good years with injuries. We're going to be looking at that, you know, very, very closely, personnel and practices. And we'll see what changes we make, but it was certainly unacceptable this year. Right. But I do think that, you know, the biomechanics, again, I think long-term you will see that it can assist in managing a workload. Every player's different, and that, in the end, should cut down on injuries.
And Randy, shifting gears a little bit, you are now a director of AC Milan, along with our mutual friend Jerry Cardinal. What have you absorbed from that experience that may be transportable, other than that you sometimes need to get to the Milan airport?
It's a different world.
I'm learning a little Italian, that's but no, I mean, I learned a little bit about soccer from New York City Football Club. You know, we're partners with City Football Group, owns Man City and many other teams, and you know they're the gold star of the soccer world. They really are. They're fantastic. So, you know, I just absorb it. You know, I don't know. I'm not a scout or a tactician. Just learn about it. And you know, since Redbird took over AC Milan, Jerry's done a really good job as far as transforming it into a championship club. And I just, when asked, give my experience to help. And we've done a lot with AC Milan. If you turn on the S network, you'll see AC Milan programming now. We sell AC Milan stuff in Yankee stores. We just did a joint hat, AC Milan Yankee hat, that sold very, very well. So there's a lot of commercial opportunities that we work for, but you know, I'm the new person on the block, so I try and stay back and answer when asked.
I was surprised as to how heavily they're involved with analytics as well, and that's about no specific questions because that's not my deal. But if you ask my nephew, he'd be able to explain to you everything. But very heavy into analytics. I mean, I was surprised at that, and I mean, it's interesting.
And given all of the joint ventures and co-investments you've been involved with, obviously you're involved with the Jones family in Legends. You were once a co-owner of the Nets when they were in New Jersey. Now you're in at the highest level of European soccer. When you look at the other leagues and your particular experiences from that, are there things that you have brought into the Yankees organization or things that you see other sports doing that you think might find their way into the way you run the Yankees?
Oof, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we have great contacts and communications, and we look for the best practices no matter what the sport. And a lot of smart people in this business who've thought of things that we've never thought of. So we try and adopt them. So, you know, we talk to people. I talk to people all the time, including people in this room today, to try and see how they do it better, because this business is changing all the time in all fronts.
Hal, anything from your perspective where either at the Yankees level or the Major League Baseball level, you think there's a couple of ideas that you might want to appropriate?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's what I'd have to think about. That's what I'd have to think about.
There you go. So I'd be remiss in the last couple of minutes if I didn't ask each of you for your funniest George Steinbrenner recollection or your most poignant, the things that that you tell at Christmas time as humorous family stories. Randy? Or maybe this is the same. There are no funny David Stern stories. No, there are actually plenty of them.
There are a lot, but that's why I've been president of the Yankees for 23 years. I haven't told any.
Yeah, I think, funny stories aside, I think one of the most special moments I ever saw was when we won in '96. It had been 18 years. And then again, we won, obviously, in '98, '99, 2000. They were all very special to him, but I don't remember which year was the one year, but he literally broke down. And I've never seen the man break down, but him and Joe Torre were crying. And
with Bud, everybody, there were no two opposite people than Bud Selig and George Steinbrenner when it came to the economics of baseball, the rules of baseball, how they looked at it, on everything. Yet they were like the best of friends, beyond. I mean, whenever Bud called, even he would vote against the interests of the Yankees if Bud said it was important. And I think when Bud gave him that trophy for the first time after winning, it was just the years of friendship and so forth. It was really remarkable, right, Hal, to watch him. He broke down. I never saw him cry like that.
Yeah, the only time in my life I've seen that. So,
And obviously, one of the things your dad started was the stadium initiative that has led to the new Yankee Stadium, which has obviously been a huge success. If you were planning it again today, anything you would do different in light of the fact that a decade or more has passed? Are there new renovations or brand advancements inside the building that we should all expect? New candy in the Legends Lounge,
Yeah, look, I think we're always trying to, and maybe back to your former question. I mean, we look at what other stadiums do, and other stadiums in other sports, including European soccer. We're doing a renovation of the clubhouse this year, which of course the fans aren't going to see, but it's long overdue. But we are constantly, especially with the food, trying to create new stands, local partnerships with local restaurants. We're always trying to stay, top-notch when it comes to the different food offerings we have, and that changes every single year. We have different offerings. And, as I said, those social gathering spots we put a lot of energy and money into building are unbelievably popular. And, other small things we're doing, again, to try to get this younger generation interested. I mean, Fridays we have a DJ in the outfield during BP playing kind of music that I probably won't be playing in my car. But the kids love it, and, we try to change up what we do in between innings. So, but there's a lot of things. But I think, what you see year to year difference is the food and beverage options are different every year, and that's something we really try to stay on top of. So,
I guess one of the other things those of us fortunate enough to be in this industry never try to forget is the players play the games. And I noticed you said you changed your management style a little bit this year. You have more regular meetings with certain players and coaches. What have you learned from that experience?
Well, I mean, look, I've always had conversations with players, but I mean, to have a captain, I was involved when Derek was captain, but my dad was running everything. To have a captain that I can really talk to, that is the true leader of the team, respected by young players, veterans, everybody, it's a benefit because you have to get their perspective, and it needs to come, for me, from a very even-keeled, intelligent person, and that's what we have in Aaron Judge. So we just met yesterday at the stadium. We talked about a lot of different things, including what happened in Tampa last week with the meeting. So it's good to have that sounding board, and I know the players feel it's good for him to have the sounding board with me. And there's Garrett Cole, same way. We have conversations and we meet as well. So,
well, I think we all feel fortunate that you took some time from your busy schedules to be with us today. So thank you. This was great, and we look forward to a better 24.
Thanks, Joe. Good job.